Wolfpack. What's going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with the Week 14. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just 1 week away from the fantasy playoffs. Normally, this would be your fantasy playoffs, but we have that extended season, of course, this year. So we are going one extra week in the regular season in most leagues. And there's some crazy buys. So good thing we are. We're like Jonathan Taylor and some certain studs out this week. It's good we have another week until the real action goes. Although many of you are in those playoff type battles at this point, win or go home type of situations, send your opponents packing, all that good stuff. Either way, all this means is we got to get the W's. They're more important than they've ever been, Wolfpack. So come on in. I'm going to be pulling in my rankings right here, right now, so we can go through each position as we always do, going through my top plays, the Hail Marys I like, the streams I'll do, the guys I'm a little bit lower on than the ECR, and we'll cover some big news as we go through it. Now, before we get into that, though, I do want to cover some big news from today. This was a busy Wednesday of news, so I want to make sure I get this all on your radar because there's definitely some actionable stuff before we get into the rankings that you guys should be aware of, especially if you're live here right now. Hopefully you can make these moves before your opponents catch wind of this stuff. The first is David Montgomery dealing with a litany of injuries. His glute, his shoulder, his hammy, his whole body seems to be breaking down. After a monster performance, he's the second highest scoring running back behind King Javonte last week. So I think he's going to be okay. There was no real sign of wear and tear clearly in the game with the monster game he was having. Even still, though, Khalil Herbert was my number one handcuff that's widely available. He was only 15% rostered at the time of going live here on Wednesday night. I think that should be up to about 50%, given that, one, if Montgomery misses time, we've already seen Herbert rip off 100-yard games after 100-yard games, including against Tampa Bay, one of the best run Ds in the league. The kid is talented. He was an every down player, including surprising as a wide receiver while he was in there pass catching. Herbert would be my priority ad of today's news. But in addition to that, Mike Williams also could be missing Sunday's game, and that would leak into next week should he test positive for COVID. Now, the latest that just came out about 20 minutes ago was that he was just a close contact. So if he tests negative 2 more times, he'll be okay. He'll be good to play. But he is unvaccinated, according to the team reporters. So should he test positive, we'd be looking at a 2+ week absence for Mike Williams. And Keenan Allen, we already know, we talked about this on Monday, is also right now on the COVID list. He is vaccinated, however, so he just needs a couple more negative tests to then get removed from that list. Either way, I do think it's worthwhile to stash a Jalen Guyton, who's only 7% rostered right now, would walk right into an invaluable role as Justin Herbert, one of the best QBs in the leagues, his primary weapon. So he could be a good play. And even below that, even deeper, would be Joshua Palmer, their third-round rookie, who is one of the stars of training camp, hasn't done much all season, but this might be the shot he needs to really show I can get it done at the NFL level. He's only 1% rostered right now, so should be out there. If you missed on Guyton, maybe take a stab at Palmer as well. And last but not least is Eli Mitchell. We knew he was already in concussion protocol, but MRIs also showed a little bit of flare-up. So Kyle Shanahan just giving his typical nonsense answer, nothing concrete with what he was saying, but even still, it was not promising. It's not a good thing to have a little bit of damage going on, regardless of what level or what extent that is. So in addition to that head injury, also dealing with some knee issues, they added Brian Hill to the practice squad, suggesting that they are planning for an absence of Mitchell. So go out there and get JaMychal Hasty. Given that we already know Jeff Wilson was dealing with a knee flare-up this week, he did practice in limited fashion, so also go out there and get Jeff Wilson as well. If I was ranking all of these guys we're discussing right here before we get into the rankings, I would say Khalil Herbert is my number one priority, followed by both Hasty and then Wilson to get those running backs all set, and then you take the stab on Guyton and Palmer, given neither one of them are guarantees, and both those wide receivers could be back as early as Sunday. None of these guys might mean anything, but definitely some speculative ads. Cut your kicker, cut some bench trash if you have it lingering on there. Alrighty, folks, that's the news I wanted to cover. As we now get into the rankings, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button if you're here and you like what you're hearing, you enjoy this content, it does help us continue to grow the channel, continue to get more people in here to the Wolfpack, and it would be so greatly appreciated. So please consider getting that thumbs up in for us, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're at, would be so appreciated. If you haven't already subbed on YouTube, We're getting close to that 2K goal. We'd love to hit it before the season ends. So please consider hitting that sub button, turn the bell on if you like it and you want to get these questions answered live. Now get all those questions in, get your sit starts in, settle on in. I'll be about 30 minutes or so while I rip through these positions, and then we'll get to every question that you guys have out there, folks. So let me pull these back in here, add to the stream, and let's cover it on up. At quarterback, number 1, Josh Allen. I know he had a dud, but I mean, you don't need me to explain why we can forgive Josh Allen for that dud. One is the Patriots defense, but far more important was that weather. I think he will rebound in a big way. Tampa Bay giving up the 15th most points to signal callers, middle of the pack, but the definition of a pass funnel for a team that only passes. Josh Allen should have a big day. They're going to need to put up points. That game should have one of the highest totals of the entire slate this weekend. Looking forward to that one. Indeed. Kyla Murray, the only other guy I put in that like God status tier of QBs, facing off against the Rams. Yet another game that has really very real shootout potential. He came right back in and ran 2 touchdowns in, scored over 30 fantasy points. Looked like he never missed any time. As nimble as we've seen him in weeks. It's great. They took it slow with him, and he looked 100% fully healthy. That's all you wanted to see. Down the stretch should be right back to his cheat code that he was as the QB1 to begin the year. Now you move into your other QB1s. I know Dak busted on me. He was my number 1 QB last week, and he sucked. Too bad. You got Washington, though, coming up. And yes, they have tightened up quite a bit these last couple of weeks, but even still, just 2 weeks ago, they gave up 27 points to Cam freaking Newton, who couldn't hit a barn last week, the time he was out there. So I do think Washington football team, yes, they have tightened up a little bit on defense, but still a matchup that can be exploited. He should have all his weapons. Amari Cooper had that nice long layoff. He played on Thursday, but didn't play. He was a little bit limited. Now he's had those 10 days to rest. Get him fully healthy. Should help out Dak Prescott, who I'm +2 ECR. Aaron Rodgers, I'm also a couple spots higher on the ECR, facing off against a bad Chicago secondary. They've been okay against the run, but horrendous against the pass. 8th in terms of QB points allowed, so a top 10 matchup here for Rodgers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had a pretty solid day. Well, that might have been the game he was with. No, that was the Cardinals where he was without Adams. So last time they faced Chicago, 24 fantasy points. The QB9, I think a repeat performance of 24-plus points is well within his range of outcomes. You got Tom Brady, 6 games with 4+ touchdowns. No other quarterback has more than 2. What an insane season this guy's having. Yes, Buffalo, the toughest matchup. I don't care. They lost Tre'Davious White. I don't think the secondary is going to be nearly as good as what they've seen all year. Brady's going to light it up. You don't need me to tell you that, but I'm not worried at all off by the fact that this is one of the toughest matchups for QBs. In fact, I welcome that. Brady is going to welcome that. He plays better in these types of situations. So all in on Brady. Justin Herbert, I did have at number 3 entering the day, but with news that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen could potentially be out, you got to bump him down a little bit. Now, if both those guys are ruled back in, I might treat him right back to number 3. Coming off, he was so boomer bust to begin the year, but now you look at what he's done these last few weeks. 32, a big bust there. 13, yeah, that sucked. 35, 22, 26 since then. Top 6 in 4 of his last 5. He's been getting it done each and every week. Giants, not a good defense. You don't need me to spell that one out for you. So I think Herbert could walk right in and have himself another monster day, assuming his weaponry is all there. I'm definitely lower, though, on him until we know more. I'm also lower on Lamar Jackson, -3 ECR, as you guys can see here. I don't get how he continues to be ranked as high as he is. Look at these last few games, 16, 13, 19, 10, 17, 11. Like, he's been okay, but nothing close to the QB that was dominating. Looks a little bit like Russell Wilson in the sense that, like, that 19 points he had last week, so much of that came in garbage time on, like, the final drive here. So I am definitely hesitant, cautiously. I wouldn't even call it cautious optimistic. I'm cautious about what's going on there. I'm plugging in the microphone. I know that worked for a second. I'm refixing that. So the volume changes on you. My apologies. Just making sure we get the best audio quality for you guys with that plugged in here. Great to see you guys, though. See a bunch of the legends here already. Mitch, Denny, Will G, all you good guys. Appreciate you being here. Jack, back in action. Great to see you guys. You've been the MIA&D, Benny Thompson, Tunes, of course, here. Love it all, guys. Great to see you all. Moving forward with our QB position, don't want to get too off track here. We got Taysom Hill, who I might even bump ahead of Lamar Jackson. We will see. ran 100 rushing yards last time out. Now he gets the Jets, the worst team against the run so far this year. I think Taysom could have himself a monster day. He's dealing with all these injuries that add some risk, but he now has a healthy designation. He's already been confirmed as the starter yet again. Love him. I'd play him even over Pat Mahomes. That's insane, Wolf, right? It's Pat Mahomes. I mean, even more so than Lamar Jackson. Look at these numbers. 9, 15, 10, 36, 9, 14. So 5 of his last 6 have been 15 or below. He's been outside your top 17 quarterbacks in 5 of his last 6. I don't know what's happened. It's abysmal. It's atrocious. And I hate it. It's awful. Last time, there's one blow-up game did come against the Raiders. He was the QB1 with 36. So that does give me slight pause to ranking him as low as we do. He's going to be home. That doesn't hurt. I don't know, Mitch. I know you're out there. What's going on with Mahomes? Do you have an answer? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Kelsey's not as dangerous. He's been kind of sucking. The defenses seem to have figured him out, and I am nervous. The only silver lining is the fact that's against the Raiders, who he destroyed last time out. Then you move into like your last QB1s, but more so your high-end QB2s. That'd be Kirk Cousins, based in Pittsburgh. He's been pretty rock solid. As you can see, like 17 is his lowest. In his last few weeks, QB 13 is the lowest finish. In his last 5 weeks, solid. And Pittsburgh secondary has been banged up, not that good anyways. Maddie Stafford, tough matchup against Arizona, but shootout style game. No qualms, just firing him right up as your usual QB1. Burrow continues to rope 300 yards last week, did not do so much more with it. He had that one touchdown, but a couple picks. So that ultimately did not help too many people out. But still, Burrow, solid each and every week. I don't know. It's not loading for me right here. Oh, well. I guess you guys don't need to see that. But you got Cam Newton facing the second easiest matchup for quarterbacks here against Atlanta. No doubt about it. He should light things up. If he doesn't suck completely. I'm not holding that Miami matchup. I'll hear him now. Now Barber decides to pop up. Thanks, Joe. I'm not holding that matchup, though, against Miami, against him. I know they looked like a top 3 matchup, but yeah, they sucked early in the season. They have been ripping quarterbacks to shreds, leading the NFL in interceptions since week 9, second in sacks since that time period as well. That secondary has really come together, as has that defensive front, one of the best defenses right now in football. So Atlanta did the opposite of that, one of the worst defenses. They have not gotten it together. So I have Cam in line with ECR, 5,400 on DraftKings. I don't mind him at all. A solid play. Now you're moving into your QB2s. Like, I hope you have a starter up here. But if not, you can play Derek Carr. Last week was pretty Dudley. Pretty ugly, actually, in general. 12, 10, and 12. 3 of his last 5 have been pretty useless. Kansas City did have 19, though. If Mahomes does his thing, he'll have to chuck, and maybe he can get it done there. Tannehill against Jacksonville, that always seems like it works out, even with his weapons all banged up. It does seem like Julio could be back, even without A.J. Brown right now. So that would be a big reinforcement for Tannehill. He'll probably run in a score against Jacksonville. He seems to always do that. What was his last output against Jacksonville? I feel like it wasn't horrible. Only 14. Maybe I'm a little bullish on him. Maybe I'm too high. We will see there on him. Heineke, decent matchup against Dallas. A secondary that has surrendered. Where is Dallas on this list? They've gotten better in the last few weeks. That's why they're not at 7th most points. So not all that great indeed. So not a bad matchup at all for Heineke. He's just not that good. So let's see here in terms of what he's been doing. 16, 23, 12, 16. So you're probably going to get 16 to 20. Not a bad floor for a guy like Taylor Heineke. I think Big Ben did look solid. They're talking about maybe running more of that muddle huddle type of offense where he was killing it. Minnesota has one of the worst secondaries, the most points allowed to wide receivers over the last 3, since week 3. We get bombed. So I think Ben Roethlisberger, Deontay Johnson on Thursday Night Football. If you're desperate for a stream, I'd have him in above Jimmy Garoppolo, Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Ryan. No, thank you. And then you're getting into like, do I force in Justin Fields, who is starting this week? Probably not. I think he's going to get swallowed by Green Bay. In fact, I like Green Bay's defense a whole lot more now. These are the gross quarterbacks. You don't need any of those guys. So that wraps up our quarterbacks. Let me know what questions you have on them. Again, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button to continue help growing the pack. It would be so greatly appreciated. Thank you again, guys, for being here. Continue to get all those questions in. We'll hit them all in a little bit. Now let's get on to running backs. Austin Eckler was already my running back 1 for the week against a bad Giants defense, surrendering the 10th most points to the position. And now with these potential injuries, and this guy's going to see 20 targets this weekend with all these injuries around him, not without the realm of possibility. Honestly, I mean, yes, 20 would be a little bit exaggerated, but still 15 plus targets, like that could happen. He does that anyways, even with the entire team around him. Actually, it's the 8th most points now since they got beat down pretty bad on the ground last week. The Giants are surrendering. So great matchup. Potentially a massive target share here for Austin Eckler. Nobody should argue with him being your number one player at the running back position. And really just of all the flexes, he's right in that conversation as well. You got Joe mixing against a San Fran team, giving up the 11th most points to back. So solid matchup for a guy that scored in 9 touchdowns in his last 4 or 5 games. I mean, he didn't have the 2 touchdown streak continue this last week. It was a little bit of a dud, running back 21, but still, I mean, look at these numbers. 21 plus in 5 of his last 7, like 2 scores and all that. Just beautiful. The guy's a workhorse. He's going to be great. I would handcuff him with Pirine right now, but nice matchup for a great talent right now. I do think Alvin Kamara, if he's fully ready to go against the Jets, and now we got Ingram on the COVID list, he might get bumped up to number 2. Should he be a 100% the guy? Now, I'd recommend maybe stashing Ty Montgomery in case he can't go and Ingram's not back. But yeah, you got to feel great about Alvin Kamara. You can't feel bad about Alexander Mattison. I mean, all he does, 32 touches in 1 start, 6 catches, 26. His next start, 32 touches again. And then ultimately last week, what was it, 26 total, 25 total, 20, 23, and 20. He's been over 20 points in all 3 of his spot starts. He's a beast. He's a beast with nobody in line. The only question now is, does Dalvin Cook, who's got 2 limited practices in already this week, could he return earlier than expected? Maybe. My guess is they rest him 1 more week, and then he comes back with a nice 10 days more of rest before the next game. But we will see. There's no guarantees here. So check him out indeed. Then you got Najee Harris, your touch machine. He actually has been outside your top 10 running backs since week 9. He has not been in there, as you can see, 10 in week 9. But since then, 14, 12, 41, and 19. Riding a ton of volume still. So that's why you can continue to bet on him against a Vikings team that's given up the 12th most points to the position, some of the most rushing yards on the ground. You're getting a ton of volume. I have no problem getting Najee right in there. Javonte Williams, unfortunately, Melvin Gordon practicing today, so he might get bumped down. I had him ranked here. If we knew Gordon was out, he might be my running back 2 of the week. But now that we know he's back, probably will get bumped down into this like running back 12, 13, 14, because they just are so hesitant. It's about a 55-45 split with Gordon, oftentimes favoring Gordon at this point. So you hope that the beast has been uncaged and they never get put back in, right? Should be the case. Maybe they've seen enough and they'll just let this guy ride it out. Gordon, what do you get from putting Gordon back on the field? I don't know. I say ride this guy till the wheels fall off, but of course I'm just a hopeful roster or at this point. So we'll see. But you got to have Leonard Fournette right there towards the top. Yes, Buffalo, one of the better run-Ds, but you can beat them up the middle. You can pound them. We saw David Harris ripping off big plays. Ramondre Stevenson, that Monday night game kind of exposed them. If you got a solid line, you can bully these guys up front. And right in that interior of the Bucs line, they can move people. So I do think big game Lenny, who leads the NFL in receptions. So even if you can't run on him, you're going to get some catches. I can't believe the guy leads the NFL in running back receptions. Just insanity. He's going to be a fine play. Running back 7. Cordell Patterson, Carolina, the second hardest matchup, but he's so versatile. He'll get it done in any which way. I have no problem ranking him in my top 10. Gibson, you're looking at McKissick coming back, so this might be a little shy high here. But, man, he leads the NFL in carries since the bye. Was a true every down back. I mean, he's had over 20 fantasy points, I think, in 3 of his last 4. At this point, 21, 20, 20. Yeah, unbelievable. And that 1 8-point dud, but, man, he's been solid. And those games all came with McKissick other than last week. So I do think he can continue to get it done, even if Dallas is a little bit better against running backs than they are the pass. In fact, 3rd fewest points allowed to running backs. I might bump Gibson down a little bit now that McKissick is practicing, but not a whole ton. Chubb, Baltimore, I know a lot of people are scared. And as you can see, I'm 3 spots below the ECR. You got to start the guy. But last time out against Baltimore, I believe it was a pretty atrocious performance. Baltimore, 5 points. Oh, God. That has to send a little bit of shivers down your spine, putting Chubb in there. But at home, fresh off the bye, a week to prepare against the team they just faced, I think Chubb will be okay. And then you got James Conner. Edmonds has looked like he may come back, but I don't think it really matters. 15 total touchdowns on the year at this point. Is 14, 15, one of the two. The guy's been a monster, absolute monster. So against the Rams, mediocre, middle of the pack. I think you'll get a top 12 running back 1 performance. So we mentioned Eli Mitchell, concussion, and then knee potential things popping up. Now, this is one of the toughest little pricks in the NFL right now. And Cincinnati is certainly more susceptible against the run than they are the pass. They are giving up, let me just double check this, the 13th most points to running back. So if Mitchell plays, and this is kind of like a loser leaves town game for both these teams, so you know they're going to unload everything they have. And Mitchell is by far, when he's healthy, I mean, he 32 touches last week, 89% of snaps. I mean, he is the guy in one of the most productive backfields. But should he not be out there, you might turn your attention to Hasty, maybe Jeff Wilson if he's healthy. So keep your eyes peeled. And we mentioned David Montgomery as well, pretty banged up. I mean, coming off a monster day. Again, trailing only Javonte Williams in fantasy points last week. Running back 3, I guess in full PPR, it was the running back 2. Yeah, running back 2 in full with 28. Running back 3.5. I forget who else would be above him. But yeah, nonetheless, was so involved as everything. But now you got Justin Fields coming back, which, the goal line vulturing potential, the lack of passes to the running back, it's just a little bit less of a shine to him. I might bump him down, certainly with his injuries as well. Every down, Josh Jacobs, though, should feast over his last 2. What did we got? 18 and 20. Top 10 in both of those weeks. And now you got no Kenyon Drake. We've all been clamoring for this 3-down role for Jacobs for years. He can get it done as a receiver. He certainly did it in college, and he has been. Now that they've been using him, career high, 8 targets last week? I continue to bang that drum, and now he's going to finally get it. Saquon gets a nice, juicy matchup against a Chargers team, giving up the 5th most points, 2 wide running backs, rather. They got no one else to throw to. I know it's been inefficient and gross, but volume is volume in a good matchup. They're going to lean on Barkley. It just really depends on who that quarterback is, because if it's as bad, if it's fucking Fromm, we might have to bump him down a little bit. And then Aaron Jones, what to make of this? I wouldn't be shocked if A.J. Dillon outscores him down the stretch here. So I have both those guys a little bit lower than their ECR right now, just to see how this all shakes out. We will see. But still, in that low-end RB1, elite RB2 range for me, it's still Aaron Jones, right? Fresh off a bye. They kind of rested him the last time out there. He should be ready to go. Clyde Edwards-Helaire continues to see the majority of touches. Now he gets a Raiders team that gets bludgeoned week in and week out. Actually, they now give the 5th most points to running backs. They've taken over the Chargers, who are the 6th most points. So I think Clydesdale, right in your high-end RB2 range. Freeman has been dominating the workload share and just producing. You had 2 touches for Latavius Murray last week. You got 14, 16, 16 carries. Also a ton of receiving work coming in. He had that 1 7-point dud, but 7-point dud, like that's the floor. That's not that bad for a guy who also has 15, 17, and 18 and 3 of his last 5. I think you're right there with like a 12 to 18 point day for Freeman. He's the clear lead back and one of the more productive run schemes in the game. You got Chuba facing Atlanta. I actually sneaky prefer Abdullah kind of down the stretch here when they face Tampa Bay. They face the Bills. They face New Orleans, where you got to get your running backs in space to do anything. But Atlanta is the opposite. You can just pound these guys into submission. So I think Chuba, who had a solid day, it wasn't a huge day, but he had like 21 carries, if I'm not mistaken, against 24 carries, 82 yards, 14 points in your running back, 20. I expect something similar. Maybe he falls in the end zone twice. So plus 5 ECR. I think the ECR is a little low on him. Now, Pollard, just as I'm going live, foot injury potentially. So I don't know exactly what's happening here. Let me just see if they have any recent news. Did not practice. He's coming in. He's not dealing with a long-term issue, but something to keep an eye on. So, yeah, maybe I had to flip him up. As you can see, I'm a little bit lower on Zeke right now. Either way, this run D for the football team is much better than their pass D. They've been even better as of late. So I don't know that I'm attacking that run game with a lot of enthusiasm. And I got Daryl Henderson. What's going to happen between him and Sony? Is he even playing? Sony, they talked about the rhythm running from McVay. He gave one of the most confusing quotes of all time. Sony's a rhythm runner, and we saw what happened this week when he got him a rhythm, but Daryl Henderson's not going to just disappear. We love him too. I don't know what's going on in that backfield. It might be a hideous committee moving forward. So that's why Henderson is usually my top 12 running backs all the way out here as a fringe RB2, as is James Robinson, 5 spots below the ECR here. But I'm getting pretty sick of his shit, of more importantly, Urban Meyer's shit. And the Titans give up the 5th fewest points to backs. So with the fumbling issues and the heel concerns and just a lot of bad juju going around on James Robinson, that I'm not sprinting in a tough matchup. He's a guy that I'll ride in an easy matchup. But right now I want to see Urban Meyer recommit to the guy, because he hasn't as of late. He really hasn't been anything special. He's the RB19 in ECR. Has he even been that in 4 straight weeks? 12, 16, 21, 50. So I guess the last 2 weeks, no. But look at those, 16, 11, 11, and 2. Like, it's all trending downward for Mr. Robinson. I'm pretty skeptical. Then you move into your fringe RB2s, fringe flexes. It drops off big at running back. And as you can see, Kareem Hunt I still think could be nice and involved. I'm a little bit below ECR, but not because I don't like the guy. I am a little bit lower on Jamal Williams, though. Didn't see any of the receiving work. That was Godwin, whatever the hell his name is, taking over that receiving role. So I'm a little bit skeptical here on Jamal Williams and how valuable he'll be without that work. He's certainly capable of shouldering it. He's a great pass protector. I'm not sure why they took him off, but he only ran 9 routes compared to 13 for Godwin. It's not what you're looking for. I do think Donta Foreman, so I saw 55% of the rush share last time out. He could ultimately start to flourish in the run game as the key. Yeah, in matchups like this, where the game script against Jacksonville, they should be pounding it early and often. He might do his best Derrick Henry light impression. So a guy I could get right into the lineups. Now, Mark Ingram, I need to take this guy out because he is on the COVID-19 list, so we will check that out. Tevin Coleman facing New Orleans. Tough run D, but the guy has been a volume machine these last few weeks. As you can see, 16 and 11 carries. Also saw 4 of the targets, dominated with about 80% of snaps. I mean, look at 8 and 9 points. Like, it's not like he's crushing it for you, but he's been the running back 28-29. That's where I have him ranked. Now, this tough matchup against New Orleans, though, could spell the end of that. And then Mckissick being back in the fray against a run D that is more susceptible to against pass catching than they are rushing. Now, I do think Antonio Gibson might have taken over that 3-down role, but you're desperate for a streamer. Mckissick might catch it. Last time out there, he had 2 touchdowns, so he does still have that nose for the end zone. And then you're getting into, like, come on, you don't really need this, do you? Like, please tell me you don't need any of this. So if you do need something out here, Hilliard, I'm a little bit worried he could have his cheese nibbled from Jeremy McNichols. That's why I have the low ranking here. I think I'm going to bump him up, though, above, I'd rather have Hilliard in than I'll have him right below Foreman. So I'm going to end up about 5 spots above the ECR on him. There's nobody in this range I really want to highlight. Like, we're in gross range. Maybe the fact that Zach Moss kind of retook over the backfield, he could be a play. I do think Hasty's one to definitely stash right now in case Mitchell's out. He'd shoot into this top 24 running back range as the lone guy in this top backfield. Apparently, Tevin Coleman's in concussion protocol, so we may need to reconsider things. New news. Thank you, Tunes. News God calling me. I needed to change the banner too. Whoops. Nice. Yeah, Jeff Wilson, another guy to stash in case Eli Mitchell is out. I think those are really it. You're looking at handcuffs down here. Ronald Jones, P. Ryan, all guys worth rostering. Maybe Khalil Herbert could get shot up there, as we talked about at the beginning, if Montgomery misses the game. But that covers all the startable guys. Again, Wolfpack, let me know if you have running back specific questions. Really, all your questions. Continue to get them in. We're now up to about 30 questions. Love to see that. Continue to get them on in here. We will answer them all at the end. And as we get there, that thumbs up does continue to help us to grow. So if you haven't already hit it, please consider helping us get out to more people, beating that algorithm. It's so appreciated, Wolfpack. So thanks for being here. And of course, if you don't already sub, help us get to that 2K goal and continue to get this content delivered right to you. All righty, guys. Let's now move on to the wide receiver rankings. You don't need me to tell you why Cooper Kupp's number one. Shootout game, should kill it. Justin Jefferson, though, was the one I almost flip-flopped these guys. He's had a 31% target share across his last 4 games, and that might even be low considering what he might do against against Pittsburgh this coming week with no Adam Thielen. Could go crazy, as he just did. Look at the numbers this guy's put up. This is a stretch run season winner. 16, 18, 33, 11, 30. Over 30 points in 2 of his last 3. I think he could go for another one against Pittsburgh. This secondary is giving up the 10th most points to wide receivers. This guy is just dominating targets. He's going to go nuts. He's absolutely going to go nuts. How many targets was it last week with no Adam Thielen? Was it 18 or something nuts? 14. Jeez. 182 yards, monster. Right below him, though, Devontae Adams, I think most have Adams above him, but I think Jefferson's ceiling is that much higher this week. And Diggs facing Tampa Bay, 2 spots on VCR. I can't believe they have him down at 6. Diggs going to feast against this Tampa Bay team. That's a pass funnel. They're going to need points against that Bucs defense. I'm a huge fan of Diggs this week. I think this could be the return of 2 touchdown type of Diggs. Then you move into the top end wide receiver ones. These are elite guys that could swing your matchups for you any given week. Tyreek might need to be in consideration there. Last time he faced the Raiders, I believe he had 40 fantasy points. That might not have been the Raiders. Who was that? So he had 24 against the Raiders. That was Philly. He did that against. I was facing him in 3 leagues that week. That was fun. 24 Last time against the Raiders, coming off a dud, but man, he could just get right back into it. I like Deontay Johnson even more, though. Just steady. 9 of 11 games, he's had 10 or more targets. Just a steady beast in Minnesota, giving up the most points to wide receivers on the year right now. No reason to have Deontay anywhere outside your top 5. Or Godwin. Maybe he goes above Tyreek Hill at this point. 15 freaking catches. I know Buffalo, the toughest matchup for wide receivers on paper. But again, the secondary, no Tre'Davious White. We haven't really seen a full game with a good, competent attack. I think Brady will find the right matchups now. Is that Godwin? We don't know yet, but I think he could have himself get another 10-catch plus effort. Monster, just an absolute monster. As a CeeDee Lamb against a Washington secondary that is getting roasted for, what is it, the third most points for wide receivers. That offense is always a little boom or bust, so I'm one spot below ECR, but I still think he could feast. Keenan Allen, this is where he'd rank if he plays, but we won't spend too much time on him because we don't know if he's playing yet. But top 10 is as long as he's out there because he gets 11-plus targets. He's like kind of like a Deontay Johnson light. Doesn't do it quite as much right now, but you look at that, 11, 13, 11. I mean, he's got double digits in all but 3 games. So, not quite Deontay Johnson level, but not too far off. And you got Mike Evans, big touchdown threat, but also racking up the yards lately without A&B. Great play. Cordarrelle Patterson, I don't know why he's at wide receiver 30. Be wide receiver 11 for me because of how much of a scoring threat this guy is each and every week, ripping off big play after big play. A little worried about Hopkins, just in general, the Arizona wide receiving core, given that nobody had more than 2 catches last week. He had the most. He had the touchdown. It was nice. Maybe you get it back to a full roll, but now you got, Jalen Ramsey to worry about. Those two love squaring off against each other. A little bit lower, just a spot lower, but that passing game just kind of sketches me out now. Then you move into like your high-end wide receiver 2s. If you have him as wide receiver 1, okay, but we'll talk about your wide receiver, like your 2s here. So Terry McLaurin, so boom or bust, but Dallas, 6 most points to wide receivers. McLaurin has historically destroyed them. I think it's a great get-right spot for the guy. Did he destroy him earlier this year? Oh, they haven't even faced him this year. I'm just thinking of last year where he killed him. And I think he's going to do it again. I think we could get that 20-point blow-up McLaurin type of day. Marquise Brown, in the last few weeks, after going for 19 or more in all but 1 game, and the only other one was the drops, he's been 7, 9, and 8. Kind of gross. Cleveland, though, did decent get-right spot. What are they in terms? 23rd, so not the best imagine. I don't know. I might be a little too high on Marquise Brown here. Certainly would rather have T. Higgins in there. Tyler Lockett. Yeah, I'm going to bump him below some of these guys. A little too high on Marquise Brown, given his recent production and given Lamar's just woes. I love T. Higgins, though. He's my number 1 Bengals. He's officially taken over Jamar Chase in my rankings. 20 and 24. Top 3 wide receiver in back-to-back weeks. Or wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3. Okay. It's very close. San Fran, though, nothing scary on their secondary, right in the middle of the pack against wide receivers. Higgins should crush. Clearly, I'm a little bit lower on the ECR, given that I have Higgins higher. Jamar Chase, but look at what he's done lately. 12-6, 12-5, and 8 outside your top 27 wide receivers in all the weeks. Just gross. That's what happens. Higgins has had the most expected fantasy points all year, and now that's coming to fruition. He's making plays. Burrow's letting him go up and get it in the end zone. Love to see that. Love to see it. Elijah Moore got it done with Zach Wilson. I mean, I don't want to skip over Tyler Lockett. He's actually been pretty solid. Gets a bad Houston secondary, 14, 11, 16. As bad as this offense has looked for stretches, Russ finally seems to be getting back in his groove. Wide receiver 12, 21, 27. I mean, another top 20 wide receiver game definitely coming his way. Eli Moore, though, finally got it done. Zach Wilson, you love to see that. He's been a monster. He's still now the fact that he got it done since week 8, the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football, as you can see. 24, 12, 26, 7, 18, just a beast. Absolutely beast. Steady top 10 numbers other than that 1 dud week. But tougher matchup. Not really, you guys, actually, against New Orleans. Maybe they put Lattimore on him, but I think he can handle that for sure. 4th most points allowed to wide receivers. Fire him on up. I think Eli Moore can get it done for you yet again, as you can see, right in line with ECR. Hunter Renfrow, a spot above ECR. I mean, the guy has had 14 or more half-PPR points in all but 1 game since the bye week. Without Waller out, he'd be even higher, but we don't know yet what Waller's status is. If he's out, I'm going to bump him up probably 5 spots. Guy's a monster. Top 14 wide receiver in 4 of 5 weeks. I'm probably too low on him. Gets it done time and time again. Love Renfrow. A little bit lower on DJ Moore, but him and Cam actually have been getting it done together decently. 2 of his top games in the last 10 weeks came with Cam at the helm, doing the little Joe Burrow thing where he'll probably pop him a little bit. Now, continue to track Mike Williams, continue to track Keenan Allen. That situation's up in flux, so we won't spend much time talking about them. Could Cooper go for 30? Yeah, third most points. Yeah, as you can see, 14-12. The highest he's scored is with Cam since week 5. So that's all you need to know about how bad he fell off the cliff. Nobody could have seen that coming, huh? Didn't call that one. Not to my own horn, but I'm consistently lower on DJ Moore as I am this week. Even with the improved performances on the Cam, still -5 ECR. But Cooper, that top 3 matchup should be juicy, but I want to make sure he's fully healthy. No snap limits, any of that crap before I go all in. But 21, clearly like him. DK Metcalf, 11 spots below ECR. He has seen 8 targets in 3 straight. So some volume, or not 3 straight, rather, 3 of his last 4. But look at that, 4, 5, 2, and 9. Oh, God. That is just atrocious. So, ranked at the 12? Yeah, I get it's Houston. Talk about a get-right spot. Houston's actually been okay against wide receivers because teams just pound them on the ground, and no one likes to pound more than Pete Carroll. 12th most points allowed to wide receivers, so a solid matchup. Probably playing DK against Houston if you have him, but I'm clearly 11 spots below the ECR. I also, if I have the good enough options within my top 20 to bench him, I have no problem benching. I benched him for Odell in all my leagues last week, and that turned out to be okay. Although only had 2 catches, at least one of them was a touchdown. Ayuk, we'll see what happens with Debo. Kittle was the clear main vein of the attack last time. Cincinnati, we just saw him get destroyed by Mike Williams and Keenan Allen repeatedly. So not that scary of a matchup, even if it says, where are the Bengals on this list? 13th most points allowed to receivers. Yeah. So Ayuk could get it done, but it was just very discouraging to see it become, for Ayuk owners at least, a George Kittle week. And Kittle dominated with 30% target share, well over half the yardage share. He was the monster. Ayuk faded into oblivion, and that's the game he should thrive. So I don't know. 24 actually seems a little high the more I talk about him. But you're looking at Cooks and, Van Jefferson, some blow-up spots. Odell Beckham, those two kind of vying it out here. And a shootout game could go solid. I don't know how I feel about Cooks. Seattle's, the 7th fewest points to wide receivers. He's been kind of a nobody. 9, 3, 12, 7. Ugh. Maybe Davis Mills will actually be a positive for him. And I am a little bit lower on Mooney with Fields now coming back. He's been lighting it up with, of course, Andy Dalton. So a little sketchy on him. I do think I might bump Claypool up. Now he's fully removed from the injury report. I had him down a little lower because he wasn't at full health. But maybe now he can get a bump up. We will see. Then you move into your quality wide receiver 3s. Love Gage, 7+ targets in 4 of his last 5, including a 12-target day last week. Solid. Wide receiver 13, 23, 38, 12, and 11. Had that 0-point day, so you can't ignore that. But I'd say, betting on the numbers, the fact he's had 7 or more in all these last few games, I can bank on him. Over a Gallup now with Cooper now healthy, over Jerry Jeudy, 5 spots below ECR, even in an easy Detroit matchup. We just saw Justin Jefferson kill. Maybe Jeudy does that, but I'm done waiting for that coming out party. Don't hate Jarvis Landry. I guess I'm 2 spots below the ECR, but against a Baltimore secondary with no Marlon Humphrey, maybe I'll bump him up a little bit. They are already a pass funnel defense, and now their best corner is out. That shouldn't be a bad thing for Jarvis Landry. But I do love streaming KJ Osborne if you have that shot this week, the 9th most points allowed to wide receivers. For Pitt, they're probably going to sell out to stop Justin Jefferson. And when KJ Osborne, I tweeted this one out, has seen 7+ targets. He averages over 60 yards a game. He scored in 3 of those 5 such games, averaging 15 points per game. That'd be the wide receiver 19 on the year. So I do think KJ Osborne, well within your streaming, high upside streamers. Get him in on Thursday night. I really am a big fan of KJ Osborne. Now, Julio Jones could be that clear number 1. Should he be back against a Jacksonville team that's given up a ton of points to every position, including wide receivers, the 8th most points, but 4th most across the last 5 games. Julio could have, he hasn't been anything relevant since week 2, but this could be it. This could be the time. Christian Kirk, just as I talked about, no receiver had more than 2 catches. They only took 15 pass attempts. I do think they're going to need to throw more against a Rams team that keeps it far more competitive, but still concerning, that type of usage, definitely. Crowder, though, with no Corey Davis, I could see him getting a bump up. You see +3 ECR.
just a solid enough. Yeah, like solid is pretty relative speaking. 12, 6, 4, 13, 1. I do think without Corey Davis, though, top 30 numbers are well within his reach. Against the New Orleans team that, as we talked about with Eli Moore, 4th most points to wide receivers. They have been very susceptible to the slot, too. That's where they've really gotten roasted. That's where Carter pretty much plays exclusively. So he could have a big day. We had a nice 80-yard day for Tyler Boyd his last time out. Maybe he's creeping towards usability. I'm not into it myself. I cut him where I had him a few weeks ago, and I still have not regretted it, even with a couple decent weeks. Saw a nice stat on Cole Beasley that I'm going to bump him up a little bit. He's a zone killer, and nobody runs more zone than Tampa Bay. This could be one of those 10-catch Beasley days. Definitely bumping him up a bit based on that narrative. It was Ian Hartitz and PFF tweeted that one out. So he'll be getting a little bit bump on these rankings. Sutton, averaging under 4 fantasy points per game since Judy came back. Not even a Detroit matchup will have me higher than -5 ECR. A little bit lower on Valdez Scantling than I expected. I might have to bump him up because I'm not low on him. 19 targets in his last 2 games. Fan of him. Chicago, not a tough matchup for wide receivers. 11th most points. You could go deep. Absolutely. I don't know if he was even active, though, the last time they faced Chicago to compare. Nope, he wasn't. But 20 and 7, not horrible performances in his last 2. Traquan might just be the last man standing. With Deontay Harris now out, maybe it's a little Jordan Humphreys, one of my favorite names in the NFL, but I bank on Traquan maybe having a decent day against the Jets, 10 ECR. Definitely a viable Hail Mary. Sanders, done with. 43, I guess I'm higher than I should be. 0.96444. After being just a monster, for looking like one of the best value picks you could have had, been useless. I've cut him where I had him. Toast. Done. Shepard, who's he going to be playing with? Is he even going to be playing? That one might need to be reconsidered, but they will be without David. What's the guy's name? One of the top corners. I forget his fucking name. The guy from the Broncos, Chris Harris. So maybe more of appeal. Him and Galladay both up in the air, though, so we won't waste our time with them yet. We'll talk more about them tomorrow if we get more practice reports. But Shepard did average, he was a wide receiver 20 or better in the 5 last full games he made it through. So if he's in there, he could be viable. He's a target hog. Westbrook Akini, +5 ECR might get even a bigger bump up should Julio not play. He's been wide receiver 37 and wide receiver 17 his last 2 games. So 46 lower than what he's been doing. It's Jacksonville, an easy matchup. I'm talking myself into him above a lot of these guys we talked about. Now we're getting in the range of do we really talk about these guys? Well, 12 targets for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Plus you got Josh Reynolds showing a good rapport, but Denver, bottom 24 against the pass. So they're pretty good against wide receivers. Bottom 24 matchup, I should say. So that they are good against the pass. You got, Treadwell leading the Jags and receivers the past couple weeks. Definitely lower on Marvin Jones, not touching LaVisca. Ew. But I will highlight, Jalen Guyton as a potential stream. Should Keenan and Mike Williams be out, similar to Josh Palmer. So I bumped those guys up just to get them on people's radars at this point. I don't know why. I'm not high on Hardman. He shouldn't be up this high. So I will be adjusting that for sure. Nobody else in this range really worth talking about, in my opinion. So let us get now on to tight end, them kickers, and defenses, and all your questions following that. Again, Wolfpack, as we now get towards our quicker positions here, that thumbs up would be so appreciated. And again, any subs, if you have not yet, we're up to over 40 questions, almost 50 questions. I'd love to see that. Incredible. Cannot wait to answer them all, Wolfpack, but please get that thumbs up in if you haven't already. Please consider sharing it, dropping it in Facebook group, wherever you can help the pack grow. Sharing it with anybody would be so appreciated. And of course, subbing and helping us get to 2K. And that way, when we're live and answering your questions all the time. That bell. So appreciated. Thanks again for being here. Let's continue on. Kelsey, what a dud, but it's still my number one. The Raiders are bottom 5 against tight ends, against the best tight end, 9 tight end 1 games in this season. Just as consistent as they come, despite last week's dud. Still saw 8 targets. He's Kelsey. But Kittle, man, he really is pushing for it this week. Since he has been, where are they against tight ends? 13th, so not good. No, that's against wide receivers. Sorry, I clicked tight ends. Here we go. Pulling up the tight ends points against. So Raiders, the second most points in tight ends. Again, Kelsey, smash. Cincy, 18th, so middle of the pack. Kittle should have no problem. Debo's up in the air, so, he'll be the number 2 guy either way. But Gronk, he might go down to like this tier alongside Gronk, who's just been an absolute animal. I mean, look at these numbers. 10, 16, 20, tight end 3 in 2 of his last 3 games. Whew. What a resurrection for Gronk after looking broken last year. No argument about the best tight end of all time. Let's just put it that way. Mark Andrews, though, top 5 in fantasy points on the year. Cleveland, actually pretty good against the tight end position this year. Where do they go? Maybe they're not. Am I mistaken on that? Oh, 14th, yeah, middle of the pack. Never mind. Not a bad matchup for a guy that consistently sees a ton of targets. He'll be fine. Then you move into your like remaining quality tight end ones. Love Knox's upside. Yes, he sucked in that rain, snow, sleet, whatever game. But Tampa Bay, generous to the position, 10th most points. And the volume was still there for Knox, including a bunch of end zone targets. I think he could get right back to a 2-touchdown day. So I love him. I even prefer him to Hawkinson, who's kind of resurrected himself these last few weeks. Denver is giving up the 4th fewest points, but 11 and 13 found the end zone in back-to-back weeks after not scoring since week 2. Seems to be back on track here as that main vein of the passing game with no Swift here. Pat Freiermuth, touchdown almost every week. Minnesota, meh. Should be able to find the end zone. Like him as a top 8 option, as do I like Dalton Schultz. Continues to see a steady stream of targets. Didn't get it done last week, though. Gallup does kind of hurt his feeling. He got 7. 8, 14, 7. Not bad. Top 14 tight end. Just a nice floor baked in to his value here. And against Washington, they're allowing, I know Philly's the most points, 16th most points, so middle of the pack there. Then you go into Conklin, 9 targets last week without Thielen. Thielen's already ruled out, so +2 ECR on him. Ready to stream him all day against Pittsburgh. I don't really make too much of tight end points against anyways, but the Steelers are 23rd, so a little bit of a shy away, but nah. I think those 9 targets, he'll be fine. I think Conklin will get some nice volume. I'm pretty done with Pitts. Like, I know he's top 10 here, but can we just write him off? I love the heart it's like slandering his name because he deserves it to be slandered. People continue to like justify him being a top 3 pick. It's like, can't we just admit he was a bust and move on? Like, he's not a bust for his career. Just because he's still a great dynasty product does not mean he's going to get it done at any point this year. He's done nothing. Pitts, there's too many people out there just like banging that drum as hard as they can for Kyle Pitts. Yes, still a good prospect, still intrigued by him in dynasty, of course. But this year, it's not happening. He needs somebody like Ridley stretching the field, and without that presence right now, he's getting taken out. You can make him the focal point of the plan and take him out. Detroit, bad against everything, including tight end, but Fant's bad. We've moved into tight ends I don't really want to play anymore, right? Like Ertz, 1 catch last week. Ugh. Foster Moreau, is Waller playing? If not, like I like him as a stream. This is obviously ranking him as if Waller's not playing, but he was listed a day, didn't practice today, but we'll see. I actually like Everett, though, as a streamer. Houston's been really bad against tight ends, 9th most allowed, but tons of touchdowns to the position. I could see Everett, who's had 8 and 9 target days in 2 of his last 4. He had one of the worst games a tight end could play alongside Knox this last week, but still, I think he could be a viable stream if you're desperate against a bad Houston team. And then we're in the range like, do you really need any of this? And maybe Cole Kmet. Fields did like him. Dalton was up or down in targeting, but the last game, that game against Pittsburgh, he led the team with those 6 targets, 6 catches and 87 yards. Was the tight end 6. Could have one of those days. Green Bay against the tight end is middle of the pack, 21st. So not a great matchup. You could maybe look at like Ricky Seals-Jones against Dallas, who's given up the 11th most points and 6th most yards per play to tight ends. If he's in, at least. We'll see. He was a viable top 12 guy, playing all the snaps and running all the routes, but he hasn't played in a long time. Higbee continues to get peppered with targets, but I think Jared Cook, though, he might be one I bump up quite a bit if these injuries linger. He's the type of guy that could be a viable like pass. He's pass catcher first. He's not a blocking tight end, so he's a guy that could end up running a ton more routes with these absences. A lot more 2 tight end sets. That could be the possibility. I do like Hooper actually with David Njoku potentially out for this game. He did test, I believe his positive test. Let me look real quick on news. He's on the COVID reserve list. So I don't know if it's close contact. He's vaccinated. Who knows? But even still, Hooper, Baltimore is going to have the 3rd most points of tight ends. He'd be a viable play. So we'll see. If Darren Waller's playing, but definitely some interesting streams in this 15 to 22 range. But first look for Foster Moreau, or Conklin, really, the top option there that's out there in a lot of leagues. And let's wrap up here with our defenses. Your Broncos against Detroit. Don't need to explain that. Detroit sucks. New Orleans Saints against the Jets. Top 2 option for me. You got to like the Titans facing the Jags at home. They had, I think, 14 the last time they squared off with the Jags in Jacksonville. 13, yeah, the second highest defense that week. No reason they can't, after bye, like getting healthy like them. Do like Dallas. Washington's been pretty good lately, but Dallas with the what's his name? Lawrence back looked unbelievable against New Orleans. So, 17-23, very opportunistic defense. Heineke's not prone to turn. Now that we know Fields is officially starting, I think we can fire up a Packers defense at 17 and 13 points in their last 2 weeks. 2 of the last 3. It should be a smash play, in my opinion. How'd they do against Fields the last time they met up, though? I don't know if it was anything all that special. I do like the Cardinals, though, against the Rams, but Rams a good offense. So, now we're getting to the range where it's like the best of the matchups are kind of already taken away. Maybe this Vikings team could get after Big Ben. I do like the Browns, especially with how bad Lamar has been. He's been turning it over with regularity. So, yeah, against Chicago 7. So they weren't all that special against Fields last time out, but still should be okay. What did the Browns? I think they had 8. No, they had 11 against Baltimore last time. And now they get to be home, and Lamar continues to struggle. I like the Browns. I think they're sneaky out there in a ton of leagues. Like, that's a play I like. And I really like the Chargers. I actually want to bump them up. I'm at 9 here. That's way too low. Coming off a 20-point day, facing maybe a third-string quarterback. And if we're talking about playoff stashes, they get Houston week 16, Denver week 17. So they're a team that looks nice to stash moving forward. Kansas City's also like one of those teams that looks like a decent stash. That's not working right now. Don't like the Bills against Tampa Bay, and just really rest of the season they have some tough matchups. Then you got the Panthers against Atlanta, good defense, so maybe I need to bump them up a little bit against a bad offense. So yeah, I think I'm a little low on them. But as you can see, Cincy, Pittsburgh, that defense has been playing hot. 11-7, 15-17. This defense is rolling right now. So definitely consider Kansas City for your stretch run as well. And last and least is our kickers. And then we'll get to all the questions, now over 50 of them. Love to see that, Wolfpack. Thank you so much for being here and asking all these questions. I'm just humbled that you guys would want these opinions. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. How long do we want to talk about kickers? Tucker, Gay, Carlson, Butker, Bass, McPherson, all legs that boot in good matchups. A lot of them playing in domes or nice weather where they don't usually, like Bass this week. I think a big rebound week coming for Bass. But Carlson, all these guys could go for 20. That's why I love those kickers. Boswell in a good spot. Minnesota's giving up a ton of kickers, if that really matters to you. Joseph, too, though. Always a viable guy. I love the leg. They should have no problem moving against Washington. 50-yard boots all day. I think this is one of those weeks where Suckup actually benefits from facing a tougher defense. They usually just put up too many touchdowns, and he's just like 5 points because they have 5 touchdowns, and that's it. I do think this could be a nice game for Suckup, though. Gould in the Cincy, that could be bad weather for the guy. I don't know. We'll see. He's used to playing in Chicago. He'll be okay. Hopkins, Chargers, they put up points, but a little bit nervous right now if that will continue to be the trend, if this offense is completely banged up like they are. 12, 1, 11. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about kickers, folks. What are we doing? Zane Gonzalez, always a viable play against Atlanta. They should have no problem moving the ball. And as you can see, 17-17. Like he's up there with these guys that have that upside, but with Cam, you never know what that offense is going to give you. And then I think Bullock might need to be a little higher, the 1-1. He's had some bad days, and that face just really, I don't know. I don't trust Bullock. Let's be real here. All right, you guys don't care about kickers. I just had to touch upon them for everybody else that might care about kickers. I should have moved that. There you go. All righty, Wolfpack. It is now time. Let me remove these rankings. It is time to hit the mailbag. All righty, guys. Thanks again so much for being here. Get all those questions in as we get to answering your questions. If you liked what you heard and you're willing to help this pack grow, that thumbs up. Whether you replay here, you're live with us, all of it helps us out so much, as is your questions, your comments, sharing, all that stuff. And, of course, those subs helping us get to 2K would be so appreciated. We'll start off with a Wolfpack legend himself, Tunes. Chargers wide receivers having COVID. Would you stick with Herbert or go Big Ben, Teddy Two? If those are your options, Tunes, I'm sticking with Herbert. He's the type of guy that can get it done with most wide receivers. So none of those three. I'm not opposed to benching Herbert if you have a viable option. Those guys aren't viable options. So no, you're sticking with Herbert, brother. All right, just getting a quick water. And more for Toots. Drop Daryl Williams or Van Jefferson for Donta Foreman or ride with Daryl. I would drop Daryl. Yeah, he's got the high upside of a handcuff, but well, it depends. You're using the guys. I'm intrigued to see what Foreman does down the stretch, though. More so than Daryl, assuming that Hilaire stays healthy. Of course, if Hilaire goes down, then Daryl was the better play. But I'm intrigued to see what Donta does. So yeah, I would drop Daryl for him. I don't drop Van Jefferson right now. What up, Benny? Great to see you, man. Stash Taishi, Michelle, Herbert, Chargers D. That's the run. Run through those sheep, baby. Mow through them. Open that wolfish mouth and swallow the wool. Love it. Start and sit one receiver, 2 flex. Marvin, Gallup. I'm not playing Marvin Jones, so sitting him. Gallup, Kirk. I don't know how many you need here, Mike. This is a very poorly worded question. You know better than this. Start, sit, 1 receiver, and 2 flexes. So I need to pick 3 of these guys, I'm assuming, to play. Out of all of them, I like Gallup. If Mike Williams is out, I don't hate Palmer, but I don't love it. I think you're playing Hawkinson, you're playing Gallup, and then you're probably playing Christian Kirk, is how I would play this one, Mike. Word your questions better next time. You're a long-time Wolfpack member. You know better. Wolfie, Ben MII. Yeah, where the hell are you? Oh, grad school going nuts. Well, I'm glad you're here, though, Jack. It's been a while, but I'm so pumped to see you again. Most points 4, 6, and 7. Damn, that's the worst, to have all that great stuff and then not make the playoffs. I hope you can still make it, though. Let me know if you have some lineup questions we can help you with, but nothing worse than that. You got to win now. So MVS, the Hail Mary stream, you could go for it. You could roll those dice indeed, brother. Because you got to get in for AB to matter, right? Willie G, Vikings D versus, we're talking about week 15 already. I kind of like the 49ers. That defense is just a better defense. And they have some nice matchups down the stretch beyond just the Falcons. So I roll with them. Mitch, what's going on, brother? William G. Drop P. Ryan or Folk so I can carry 2. I do like carrying 2. I would probably drop P. Ryan. Yeah, I don't want to drop Folk, but you have 2 kickers. Like, you don't have 2. You shouldn't have 2 kickers. So cut one of your kickers, but it should probably be the other guy other than Folk. Folk's a monster. Oh, I guess he has his bye. That's probably what you're talking about. So you can keep him for your stretch run. You want Folk. He's a beast. So I'd drop P. Ryan, yeah. Especially because you can protect yourself with that number 1 waiver should the tragedy strike. What's up, Danny Jennings? Great to see you. I'm doing well, brother. How are you? Great to see you, man. We're working on our merch store. I'm pumped with what we're rolling out, hopefully, here for the fantasy playoffs. Should we also be concerned maybe about Herbert? Yeah, potentially as a close contact, but until news comes out, Mitch, I'm not going to speculate, If the news comes out, then we adjust and react. But right now, I'm not worried. What up, Johnny Lau? Great to see you. Cam or Taysom at flex? I'm going Taysom, baby. Facing the Jets, they both have horrible matchups. Give me the guy that just threw 4 picks and still scored over 20. I'm a little bit more worried about Cam's floor than I am Taysom's. What up, Ryan Hemmings, my boy? Good to see you, man. Checking in. How's tricks? Brady's still a play. Oh, yeah, definitely. As much as I like Taysom against the Jets and the upside is there, you can't bench Brady. No, that'd be getting too cute, brother. You got to stick with Brady in what could be a shootout matchup, even if the matchup looks bad on paper. The shootout's potential there is ripe. So, yeah, you stick with Brady, my man. 10-3 with playoffs almost guaranteed. Love it. Should add, AB, if you got the playoffs guaranteed, like, you're just hoping for a guy you might be able to start in the finals. You're never going to start Amon St. Brown. Even with the 12 targets. Like, he's not going to be crazy, is he? I don't think so, at least. Mike Williams is just a close contact. Yeah, so he could potentially be back. But, yeah, if Herbert's out, yeah, I think you might have to pivot. Is Taysom Hill still out there somehow? Like, who could be your pivots? He's a must-start if there's no other good pivots. Like, most pivots probably aren't going to be worth it, but if Taysom's out there, without those 2 guys, he'd be right at like a fringe QB, top QB1 for me, Herbert. So he's just that good and that defense is that bad. 909, what's good? Osborne, Guyton, or Khalil? Well, the tricky nature of this one is I think Khalil's the best option if Monty's out, but sadly Osborne plays on Thursday, so you'd have to kind of keep that ammunition. Like, I'd roll out Osborne is what my ultimate point's going to be. Love the guy as a play. Pittsburgh, 9th most points to wide receivers. He's averaging, wide receiver 19 numbers without when he sees 7+ targets. I think you'll definitely get 7+ targets tomorrow. So I go Osborne, unless we get news tomorrow that like Monty is really trending towards out. Because I do think Herbert's the best play if all these guys, best case scenario for all these guys, it's Herbert. But I'm like, if you don't play Osborne and then both, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are in Monty's, and you got trash there, 909. I'd rather get the solid play in there Thursday night and then kind of keep figuring out from there. Taysom or Kirk, the injury risk for Taysom, it is worrisome. I think the upside is with Taysom, but if you just want the floor, if you're in a matchup where the floor is what you need, Kirk is by far safer. There's no doubt about that. Like, the injuries are definitely a concern, but I do think Taysom, I have him a spot higher than Kirk in my rankings because the upside is enormous. Again, over 20 fantasy points with one of the worst real-life performances you'll see this year. That's the upside he has. And now he gets the Jets. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm into it. May sound crazy, but I hate cut Mahomes after week 8 and won 3 of my 5 games after. You got maybe the fantasy locker room, baby. Mike Schneider, I am like the ultimate believer in fantasy locker room. Talk about sending them a message, cutting your QB1, the number 1 QB in fantasy of all experts, right? I kind of like it. It does seem crazy, but look at the results. Results over, crazy judgment, right? I'm into it. I'm very into it, Schneider. Johnny Lau, good to see you, man. I think I just answered this one, a repeat here, but I'm going Taysom over Cam. Godwin, Lamb, T, Ayuk, Van Jefferson, Elijah Moore. You're loaded at wide receiver. So of all these guys, I mean, you're not cutting Godwin, Lamb, T, or Elijah Moore. So it comes down to Ayuk or Van and Parker. I'd probably drop Parker of all those guys. He's got a great playoff schedule, but he's never going to touch your lineup. So that would be the one I drop. But do you really need to drop like for RB cuffs? Because if you have some opponents that might be facing like pick these guys up and use them against you, I mean, I like Ayuk, Van, and Parker still. So those guys might be too talented to drop for cuffs at this point. You need roster spots. Carter, Ingram, Keenan Allen, all out. Hurts, Gaskin, Devontae on bye. Hopefully Allen will be able to play. So what do? I mean, obviously, if you can maximize IR spots, you use them. If you got to drop somebody, I would drop Ingram. Now that we have Kamara likely back, and if Ingram's going to be out, I think his time is come and gone. So I'd say Ingram's the easy drop there for me. So you got Russ, Lenny, Hilliard, Landry, Judy, Kelsey, Knox, Tucker, and you might pick up a D. I mean, it's not the best of lineups I've seen you roll out Denny, but between Lenny, Kelsey, Knox, I love that. I have that same exact 1-2 punch. You got some touchdown upside with these guys. Not horrible. Green Bay D for Wilson also have, so I think that's solid. Someone picked up Hasty, but should I drop Taysom Hill? Also have Rodgers for Khalil Herbert. What Giuseppe is if you drop Taysom, is someone going to pick up Taysom and use him against you. That's one where it pays to be defensive because you don't want to have 30 points from Taysom dropped on you. I'd rather have Herbert than Jeff Wilson. How about that? So I'd pick up Herbert over Wilson because we already saw Wilson get a start and it wasn't pretty this year. He's not the same Wilson we saw last year. So I drop Wilson first, and then by the end of the week, if you're not going to be facing Taysom and whatnot, and if we get Mitchell ruled out, or if Montgomery's in, then you drop Herbert again. But I'd rather have Herbert on my roster than Jeff Wilson right now. I actually dropped Jeff Wilson for Herbert earlier today, Giuseppe. Oh, Landry or Gage? I'm going to go Gage. I'm going to ride that hot hand grind. It's close, though. I have them within 2 spots of each other. And Landry does get the Marlon Humphreys list Ravens. So that's one where I'm not going to make a case for one that's going to be too strong over the other because it just kind of comes down to a gut call. I love how Gage is playing. He's been top 13 in 3 of his last 5. I'm going to ride that train. But Landry did have 12 plus and 2 straight before the bye. So I can see that too. You got to trust your gut there. Full PPR does help both of them. So it doesn't give one or the other the edge. But I'm going Gage there. Judy or Foreman? In full PPR, probably Judy in full, but half or standard. I'm going to go Foreman and hope he gets those 20 carries. I think he could. Hopefully Kamara can give me 30. He really could, especially if there's no Ingram. He's facing the Jets. I mean, he could go bananas. Absolutely. What up, Wolf and Pack? Great to see you, Marvin. Start 2. Guyton, Julio, Osborne. Osborne, you just put him in. You got to play him Thursday, and then we just got to wait and see the news here. Is Julio even in? If not, the choice is made for you. Is Keenan and Mike Williams out? Well, then clearly Guyton's going to get a big bump. So we don't know enough, but I do think you play Osborne, and then we figure out the rest from there, Mohammed. Yeah, AP fucking asshole. Sucks. It did. It boned people, but you can still get people at 0, or you're not allowed to pick people up. Some leagues do that horrible rule, and I hate it. How do you feel about Lamar this week? Thought about snatching Hill off waivers instead. Certainly could grind. I would probably keep rolling Lamar. Like, he's bound to break this off at some point. He's still been like okay in garbage time, but you couldn't be faulted. I have Lamar 8 and Taysom Hill 9. You're kind of asking me a lot of these back-to-back questions. So again, I always defer to the gut in those situations, but of them, I would play Lamar. It's so hard to bench Lamar. Herbert's available. I think for your playoff run, like, you might have to, but you only have 4 transactions. Like, if you don't need him, you're talking about Khalil Herbert. I was going to say, like, how could you leave Justin Herbert sitting out there? If you only have 4 left for the rest of the season, that's tough. Because you still need to, like, stream some defenses, kickers, injuries. Tough sell until we know more about Monty. If you think he's going to last a little while. If we know Monty's ruled out, you got it. But otherwise, I think you stick it out. Picked up Dearness and Khalil Herbert. You got some nice upside there, Jeff Lee, from yesterday's house cleaning. I like it. Could Latavius and Breida put up more points on a weekly basis if nothing happens? Yeah, sure. But you're going for upside. I like those fence swings, Jeff, especially the Khalil Herbert one with Montgomery banged up. Got the only buy in my league. Love to hear that note too. And your weakness is QB. I have Taysom, Cam, and Tan. Jeez. Should I be confident in Taysom? I mean, yeah. Again, 4 picks and he still had 20. Like, and Dallas is one of the better defenses he's faced, so he will face. So I think you can be pretty confident in him. No, too. Yeah. Should I drop one of? I'd drop Tannehill. Honestly, I would for Herbert. Yeah, I would. I'm gonna go Gage. I'd rather have Gage. He's way steadier than Pitts right now. Grind. Any plans with for after the season? Will you guys still run your show? I love it, Jeff. I love that you're already like wondering. I didn't do a ton of live shows last offseason. I kind of fell it was a weird offseason. You guys know that, COVID and everything. I got into a weird spot last offseason, and I kind of just fell off the face of the earth for a little while. I plan to do more. Now, Jeff, I don't know what exactly form that will be. I've kind of talked about maybe doing like a food show where I eat something and compare it to fantasy players and like review local spots and then maybe travel and visit places. I don't know yet. I don't know exactly what it will look like and what form it will manifest, but I'll try to get live at least once every couple of weeks, like, twice a month type of thing. And then, of course, your typical free agency, your coaching carousel, like the big flag point stops, the draft. Like, of course, I'll be live for that stuff. I kind of was already last year, but I'd like to make sure to keep the pack engaged. If you guys are going to show up, I'll be here. I'd love to, absolutely. So I'll be jonesing to see you guys, no doubt about it. So I appreciate you asking, Jeff. I definitely want to be more consistent than I was last year and seeing you guys. Also, wide receivers 3 is shaky for no 2. Got D. Parker, Michael Gallup, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. A little shaky, yeah. Need one of these 3 to pan out. So I think you got stashes. I really like Parker. I think Parker's the best of those 3 to pan out. I mean, Gallup, talent-wise, is the best, but as a third option, I don't know. He's always been a little inconsistent. So I feel pretty good about Parker, and he's got back-to-back easy matchups in 16 and 17. So that's where I'm leaning. I like that. Wolfpack, we got 30 of you here. If you haven't already hit that like button, would be so appreciated. Smash the like for us. And, of course, get those questions on in. If you're new here, it seems like a new name like Ronald Carvid. I don't know if I know you. Welcome to the show. Really appreciate you being here, asking your questions. Can't wait to answer them. But if you like what you're hearing, please consider subscribing and helping us continue to grow that pack. It would be so appreciated. Sharing it out to anybody you're not facing, all that good stuff. Thank you again for being here, Wolfpack. Hubbard or Pollard? I'm going Hubbard, especially with this new foot injury for Pollard. Makes him a little more sketch. I know how explosive he is, but Chuba should see about – they said they want to run the ball 30 times. That's why they fired Joe Brady. He's going to be the lead early down back, and this is a game I don't think they're going to be able to run it 30 times when they face the Bills, when they face the Saints, when they face certainly Tampa Bay, right? But Atlanta, that's a Hubbard week. I think the rest of the year after this week, I'm a little skeptical of him. But right now, unless Zeke is ruled out, I'm definitely going Chuba here. Jefferson, DK, Boyd, Bateman. Should I drop either Boyd or Bateman? I think Bateman's got to go. I'm done with him. Bourne, I like what he's been doing, but I am skeptical of the fact that, one, he's got to bye this week. Then he gets the Bills, and Colts is a good matchup for him. So I do think you can stream him next week. So, yeah, I would do that move. I'm done with Bateman. So, yes, get rid of him. But is there anybody else you could stash? You think Bourne would last another week? And then you could get him, Daniel, and you can give someone a tryout run? Because if I don't have to pick someone up in the bye week and there's no edge to gain value here, then I'd rather wait it out on them. But if you don't think he's going to last through the bye, then, yeah, go get him, because I think that's the Colts. He's a viable play. We can't trust Bateman at this point, though. I'm done with him. Boyd, too. He can be dropped as well. But Bateman first. What up, Falanini? Pick 5 here. Jones. I mean, come on. You're asking me Kamara? I should just skip over this question. You know better than this, Falanini. You're playing Kamara against the Jets if he's in. Don't ask him. The rest of these guys, I could see being in the question, though. I'm going to go Kamara locked, no doubt. Aaron Jones in there. David Montgomery in there if he's playing. Those 3, really, I wouldn't debate. Now we get into a little bit of tougher range because, like, you're playing Jones. Can you play A.J. Dillon too? Probably not. I do like OBJ in a shootout-style matchup. I probably go Jones, Kamara, or one of the Packers. If you feel Dillon's going to outscore him, go Dillon. You go one Packers running back, you go Kamara, you go Montgomery, you go OBJ, and you go James Robinson. So I'm benching whatever Packers I don't play, and I'm benching Julio. Because we don't even know if Julio's going to play. So that's kind of an easy one for me, Falanini there. Taysom or Burrow this week? I'm going Taysom. Jets, ripping runs off. You know, he ran for 100 against the Cowboys. Good run D. Like, he's going to go crazy. Okay, Nick. What up, Kevin? I'm in this week. I love it if you win. Second highest score. Yeah, it sucks that you're even in this position, but let's fucking get it done, baby. Taylor Heineke or Cam? Oh, man. Starting Cam more, so I would go Cam. I almost load up and stack it and just roll the dice there. I prefer Cam myself. Taylor is a higher floor. He's got 16 or more in 4 of his last 6 games. So, I mean, the floor is with Taylor, but I don't know. Cam against Atlanta, like that could be 26 and make your week and guarantee you get in, right? So that's where I'm going. I'm going Cam. Why don't you have Taysom Hill? Why didn't you get him a couple weeks ago when we were talking about him, Kevin? But I'm going Cam there. Rolling the dice, baby. Let's go. Unless you're a heavy favorite. You're going Cam. What up, Kathy? Great to see you, brother. Love the disdain when you're forced to talk about kickers. Oh, yeah. Fucking kickers. I actually am not in like the market of, there's so many people out there, ban kickers. I hate kickers. Fuck kickers. And like, I get that too. I do. If they're in there, though, they're part of a game. They're fun. But like, you sitting here trying to predict what a kicker's going to do every week. They're so fucking random. Like, that's where I get it. But I'm not in. I think you might be in that realm, Cappy, of hating kickers if I don't remember. If I remember correctly. Might not be. I can't remember exactly right. But I think in your league, you were the one that was like, fuck kickers. I hate them. Could be. I can't remember. But if they're in there, I don't hate kickers. I just hate talking about kickers. I'm talking about them right now. You just want more disdain. You like when I'm mad. That when you wanted Cappy, you like get me all angry. That get you riled up. Good to see you, Cappy. Thanks for being here, brother. Kevin Scott, is Guyton a good option if the other Chargers are out? Yeah. I mean, anybody who's catching balls as the number 1 target from an elite quarterback like Herbert, yeah, absolutely, is well in play. But rumors, as Toon says, not vaccinated, has to test negative for 5 straight days. So they started Monday, he'd have a chance to play, but he's listed as out. So he might miss this game, even as a close contact because he's unvaccinated. So we'll see. St. Brown or Guyton as a backup? I'd probably go Guyton in the off chance that both those guys are outstand. I think he's got huge upside as Herbert's number 1. Whereas St. Brown facing the Broncos, like, yeah, the 12 targets, beautiful. Game-winning touchdown, love it. If it was a softer matchup, I'd probably say St. Brown, but this is going to be one of those ones where he has like 12 targets and then 2 catches the next week type of thing. Lineup for must-win game. Taysom, Connor, Jacobs, Higgins, Jefferson, Gallup. That's not bad. The Muth, and Hawk. And Kirk. Need some big performances, yeah, but I mean, you got some big players. Jacobs is a full down back, every down back now. Higgins blowing up. Is Jefferson Van or Justin? If it's Justin, then hell yeah. If it's Van, not bad, but certainly not Justin. You got some blow-up upside here. One Rock, what up? I feel like you haven't been steady here. You came in for like every show for a while, then you disappeared on us. But pumped to see you back, brother. Not stressing Brady over the Bills? No way. I think he's going to go crazy. No Tre'Davious White, exactly as you say. As we often are, One Rock, we're synced up. I think he's going to go. I think Brady's going to have. It actually helps him to be in a tougher matchup because he gets up more shootout style game. I'm with you. All in on it. Playing for the bye. I like to hear it, DJ. With Mike Will out. If he's out, Osborne, Zeke, Edmonds, Hasty, Guyton, Kirk, Cook, Foreman. Guessing Cook is Jared Cook. I'm not going to put Edmonds back in his first game. This is a really tough spot because honestly, I think it's Osborne, but he plays on Thursday. Hasty with everybody out would be the best option. Zeke is still a pretty good option to find the end zone against them. It really comes down to, do you put Osborne in and not have anybody else here to play? Or do you, I think there's enough. I might forego Osborne because you have so many potentially juicy guys. Like Foreman against the Jags could go off. I think I'd probably go Zeke to like get to Sunday. But then if, Hasty's the last man standing in the backfield, you go him. If all the receivers are out for the Chargers, maybe you go Guyton. I probably wait this one out for the news. But that all being said, I really think Osborne's in a blow-up spot. So this is a bind, DJ. Where are you leaning? Like, are you ready to just roll the dice on Osborne and then just kind of forego those other potential high upsides or not? It's tough. That's a really tough call. I probably go Zeke for now and then see what happens, though, and wait it out. But that's tough, man. That's really tough. Yeah, knee's not looking good. So soreness, yeah, it might be the Hasty show. We'll see. All right, I'm going to go rapid fire here, folks, as we approach 8:30 to wrap this thing up. Renfrow, Van Jefferson's always Renfrow, baby. Top 14 receiver and 4 of his last 5 games. I love him. Pick up players. So you get the leftovers. But yeah, there's always good leftovers out there now. Bills defense, I don't know. Their matchups aren't great. They haven't been playing well. I don't love them, grind. 909, hope you aren't. Yeah, exactly. Don't stream him, 909. We all need Taysom Hill to play well. Of course, Danny Jennings, you're welcome. Chase Edmonds, sitter start. Probably sitting until I see. 1, we don't even know if he's activated quite yet, right? And 2, if he's playing, he's so far behind Connor at this point, I'd want to see his role. Yeah, Van, not Justin. Too bad, but Van's not bad. The lesser Jefferson for sure, but we'll see. And speaking of Van, we got a question for our man, Ward Rillis. Love to see you, brother. Thanks again for the support the other night. Appreciate it. You got to start James Conner here. Absolutely. Even if Edmonds is back, you're going James Conner here in full PPR. Catches the ball, scores touchdowns. He's the man right now. You can't bench him, Ward. Dynasty lineup, complete opposite. Brady, Kamara, Eckler. Damn. Evans, what a beastly lineup there. Brady and Rodgers. Whoo. And all those running backs and receivers. Monster lineup there. All righty, Wolfpack, that wraps up our questions. Thank you guys all so much on your way out. If you haven't already, smash the like button. Would be so appreciated. If you want to make sure you get your questions in, the subs helping us get to that 2K goal as well. Always helps. Hit that bell. You'll know when we're live. Going Monday through Thursday, right around 7 p.m. Eastern time, and then Sunday, 11 a.m. every week, 5 times live to answer all your questions. Be here for you as we go for those 2021 titles, baby. In that world full of fantasy sheep, guys, be the wolf. Thank you, Schneider. You have a good one, too. Best of luck here in week 14. Playoffs are right here, baby. This is the best time of the year. In that world full of fantasy sheep, be the wolf. One more time. Wolfpack. See you guys later.